So yeah, if you're getting started, those are like my top tips. So check out the documentation, write as much code, try these tutorials. Also, the same Udacity has Android Kotlin Udacity. They also have a really nice course on, and it's free, developing Android apps with Kotlin. Now, this at this point, you've already done Kotlin. You now can start writing some apps with Kotlin, and you're good to go. And yeah, so how do we actually now write this? So I've been talking about writing Kotlin code, how old it is, and some other information maybe that is maybe not relevant to some of you. And you're asking like, David, how do we write this code? How do we get to hands dirty? Like, I want to see some code. And yes, we have to use some certain tools. We need to install certain tools. We need to have certain things in our toolbox, I'd say. So we have something called this JetBrains toolbox. You can, I usually prefer to use this because you can install a bunch of, so JetBrains toolbox. Yeah, it's called a toolbox app. And you can have all this, they're called IDEs, integrated development environment. So basically what that means is it's customized to achieve certain objectives with a certain maybe language or a framework. We have things like IntelliJ, which is kind of multi-purpose and it's used for a lot of things. WebStorm, if you're someone who does web, maybe this might fit your needs. We have Android Studio, which now is the preferred tool we use for doing Android. You could use IntelliJ, but it's not as it's not as it's not really as customized to fit some Android needs. That's why there's a specific one for Android. If you're into Python, you have PyCharm. If you're into data science, there are lots of other stuff, C, C++. So they have all these environments for different languages and frameworks. But for today, we're going to focus on Android Studio because that's what I use at work and many other developers out there use in their day-to-day work. So you can just install this. It's available for whatever machine you use. If it's Windows, if it's Windows, Mac, Linux, they sorted. I'm gonna share a link. And once it's installed, I have this over here. And yeah, so you might notice I have like two of them. One of them is like the stable production ready, and this yellow one is for more. I wouldn't recommend for someone who's getting started because it's more of like beta alpha versions. They're like testing out things to see if it works or not, and they want you to give feedback. So I'd suggest starting with the stable version first when you're comfortable using the tools before you start experimenting with some other tools. And yeah, this is how it launches. So yeah, this is kind of how Android Studio looks like when you open it. Yeah, we use Android Studio, as I said, to write Android apps. For Kotlin, if you just want to write pure Kotlin, you'll need this one called IntelliJ. This is what I was using when I was learning Kotlin. So yeah, you can just write plain Kotlin with this, but you can't write just plain Kotlin in the Android Studio or like other Kotlin apps, I'd say. The console applications that just print in some terminal, yeah. So for that, you're gonna need IntelliJ, but for creating Android apps, you're gonna need to use Android Studio. And we come to new project. So you're gonna see all these screens showing up. And maybe you want, I don't know, you want to build for a watch, there's Wear OS, you want to build for a TV, you want to build for auto, there's all these categories already made for you. And for us, I think we are not really, because this is kind of intro, I'm not gonna touch on like native C++, scrolling, like basically this just shows you you have the ability to start off building your app with some of the work done for you. But what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna just create an empty activity. So what is this activity that you keep on seeing? An activity At this point, I'd say you can think of an activity as a screen, or rather, what you see on your screen. It's kind of wrapped up in something called an activity, which represents the screen. And yeah, that's what an activity basically is. Um, so when you create an app, you have to give it a name. Let's say you call it, what do you want to do today? Let me just call it a demo app. This is actually the name you're gonna see even in Play Store. When you go to Play Store and you see an app's name, this is usually the name that's gonna be displayed. Then we have something called a package name. This is you can think of it as the ID to your app. For every app you see on the App Store, they have different package names, so it has to be unique. And if you upload your app to App Store with a different, I think, package name, it's gonna be a whole different app. Not gonna be the same app. So once you choose the package name, that's kind of it. You can't really change it midway when you've already pushed it. And yeah, well, to save the app, then there's the language. There's Java and Kotlin, obviously Kotlin. Then there's something called minimum SDK. SDK in full is software development kit, and this kind of provides you some utilities or tools that you need to build for that platform. So there's Android API 16, Android 4.1 Jelly Bean, and you can also select the highest is Android 12. And there's gonna be this little statistic down here telling you how many devices how many devices in the world have that Android version installed. So you might say, let's choose 16 and have like 100% support, like we'll be able to support all the devices out there. But it also has its has its downsides. And then maybe you may say, okay, let's then support only the latest Android version, and then you can see your app will only be visible to like less than 1% of like devices. And there are around, I don't know, almost 4 billion Android devices out there. So we only, out of the 4 billion, maybe just like only targeting maybe less than 1% of that. Um, so we usually try and find a middle ground. Because if you support the lower versions, there are things that you can't do in older versions of Android, and there are things exactly you can only do in the latest versions of Android. So it's gonna be a pain to maintain really old if you choose the really old versions. So we try and find a sweet spot somewhere between 21 and 23, like the middle ground. I'd go with 23. Yeah, 84% is pretty decent. So let's finish. Yeah, you click on finish and all this happens. You're gonna see something here, scanning files to index, Gradle build, and blah blah blah. And you're gonna see this Gradle build. Yeah, Gradle is something we call a build system. You can think of it as it's like doing all these tasks, and uh, it's gonna in layman's, you can think of it as a manager who is trying to get all this like documents and files and resources, and then package them together, and then build the app and package it as the, if you've seen like APK or AAB, if you've ever shared an APK or something of the sort. So think of Gradle now does all this uh, compilation tasks and putting everything together, packaging it up for you, and then creating this, executing a task that's gonna build the APK, and now you have your app, which you can now uh, drop, drag and drop to Play Store, and yeah, that's pretty much what Gradle does. Yeah, there's a lot to Gradle than meets the eye, but that's kind of a very extremely high level um, overview of what Gradle really does. You're gonna hear of Gradle a lot when you do